I'm Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top questions and your struggles, and I share with you how to eat and how to move and how to think so that you can get the energy and the vitality that you want in the second and better half. And today I'm answering a question. What exactly is to fatigue? Came from a reader, and if you've got these questions, stay tuned. First of all, though, this episode is brought to you by the Flipping 50 fitness specialist. So if you're a personal trainer or a health coach, or you want to be one, you may be the perfect candidate for being a Flipping 50 fitness specialist coach, because at least 80% of the women who are flipping 50 tell me that they would leave their current trainer in a heartbeat if there were a woman who were more in their age range who were able to train and or coach them on what they should be doing. So the Flipping 50 fitness specialist actually trains you on all of the hormone balancing exercise fitness principles so that you understand how to program for every individual in front of you, whether it's somebody who's got adrenal fatigue, somebody who's training for an event, and as an athlete, they want to work a little bit harder and do a little bit more volume without doing any damage to their hormones. And if that sounds like you, check out the Flipping 50 specialist, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes. Plus, if you're already working with a trainer or want to be in your area, check out the Flipping 50 fitness specialist directory, where candidates who've already gone through all of the training are on the directory for you, so that you can find and locate trainers who know the hormone balancing difference in your area. Okay, so today I'm answering this reader's question. What does it really mean to get to fatigue? So, first of all, this question comes from one of our subscribers, honestly, who's using some of our Flipping 50 products, the You Still Got It Girl series. And it's such a great question, and it's not the first time that this one comes up, and or that somebody needs distinction between fatigue, meaning getting tired or reaching exhaustion, or what does that mean? So I am tackling this question, and if you've wondered what does it truly mean to get to fatigue when you're doing your strength training workout, stay tuned. But first, I want to do a shout out to one of our reviewers on iTunes. So iTunes podcast, where Flipping 50 is up waiting for you if that's where you listen. This review comes from T-Bone 50 plus and says, this podcast is full every time of great references, new and validating information, and is a motivation tool I listen to during my workouts. Deborah has great instinct for what subjects to talk about, when and who or what might be ideal people or help products to learn about. She puts all the links in the show notes, which means we've got it easy. You go back to an episode to find that book title, email, or website. Thank you for putting yourself at our fingertips. So thank you, T-Bone 50 plus, for leaving the review, because it really helps us, number one, spread the word, and often from a review, we'll get a great idea for another podcast. So if you've got questions or comments, you can definitely add them here and tell us a little bit more about what you'd love to hear more. So let's move on. What is fatigue? What do you truly mean by that? So here's fatigue, and the difference between these words. There's fatigue, there's tired, there's exhaustion. All right. So let's make sure that you realize I don't want you just tired. I think there's a lot of that already going around. And so a lot of workouts actually will have us doing a lot of movement, maybe in a frenzy, just doing a lot of stuff, whether we do it long and slow or we do it going from station to station, doing some of those boot camp type activities without ever reaching muscular fatigue. So that's the difference when you might walk out of the room or walk out of the gym or away from the YouTube video, if that's what you've done, and you're like, wow, I am really tired. That is not the same as having done exercise that provides enough stimulus for your muscles to actually get better while they're recovering between now and your next exercise session. That's really what fitness is all about. So to fatigue means that, say you're doing bicep curls. So if you right now just reach down and you've got something close to you, so obviously if it's a pen or a pencil, that's not going to be helpful. But if you had a 5 or a 10 or a 15-pound weight and you picked it up and you did bicep curls up and down until you just could not do one more, eventually you would get there no matter how light the thing was that you were lifting. That last one where you're feeling the muscle is really tired and I'm done, that's muscular fatigue. So generally, with most of the flipping 50 workouts that I do, whether they're in our products or they're on our YouTube videos or I'm demonstrating something, those will take you to fatigue in, say, 15 or 20 repetitions. There are times when I've gone up to 25, but at that point, you really want to have to put that weight down. That's muscular fatigue. And what happens, it's called temporary fatigue, and sometimes it is called temporary exhaustion. Temporary because if you, say, go on and do a different body part exercise, if we were exercising those biceps and we went and did squats or lunges instead, our biceps are going to get a break. And in maybe 2-3 minutes, we would be able to do another set. So it's only temporary. It's not that you're not going to be able to raise your fork. It's just that you provided adequate stimulus to reach that temporary fatigue. And that means you've made little micro tears in the muscle. And that is actually a good thing. I know it sounds like it might not be, but it is exactly the stimulus that you're wanting. And that happens during almost all exercise. The more intense it is and the more purposeful sometimes, the more of that little tearing will happen. Too much of that tearing and you're sore for days. So we're not after that. But we're after the little bit of damage that happens that requires you to not lift weights again for a couple of days. We don't actually want you to lift every other day anymore. Usually 2 days rest between your workouts will be much more effective, especially after 50, and your fitness level will be better. That's not to say that you're broken or you can't be as fit as you were when you were younger, but you will need more rest and potentially more protein than when you were younger. Now, I'll comment again on smoothies and protein a little bit later because I often will do my muscle repair meal with a smoothie afterward, and I'll tell you why. But let's just make sure we're clear on the too muscular fatigue. So here's how you do that for you. If you can safely lift heavier weights, there are reasons why you would want to fatigue at, say, 10 or even fewer repetitions. You actually will be able to provide more strength benefits and more bone density and more metabolism boost. But That's just not possible for everybody. So by the time we're over 50, we've often got some wear and tear. We've had some injuries. We've had fun, and certain joints just don't want to cooperate anymore. And you may have some arthritis. So you don't have to go heavy enough to fatigue at 10 or fewer repetitions. Definitely will help bone density more than doing lightweight, more repetitions. That honestly only helps up to a certain point, and then doing more of that won't benefit you more. But you have to listen to your limiters sometimes, not always to your goals. So you could lift a lighter weight and lift up to 15 or to 20 or even 25 times. And that kind of is the ceiling where I recommend you don't go over that, because that's when we start to do wear and tear damage on the joint, even though we're not doing stress of too high a load on the joint. So for those of you who have arthritis, for instance, or maybe fibromyalgia, that's a little touchy. You could lift a lighter weight, but more than 25 repetitions is probably not something I would recommend that you do either. So there you have it. That is what to fatigue means. So in terms of recovery, allow yourself the time enough between one workout and your next challenging workout with that muscle group to be potentially 72 hours, at least 48. And that means that Monday, Wednesday schedule you used to be on, that's 48 hours. But over 50, consider 72, not exercising again until Thursday. Sometimes is most beneficial and will bump your fitness level up. Plus, you won't be so sore, you will not be so tired, and you may get a better workout because of it. The other part of recovery between strength training is adequate nutrition. And that means two things: adequate calories. Women notoriously, now not necessarily across the board, we know there are people who do overeat, but women are often guilty of eating too little, especially if they're trying to lose weight or trying to make a change, at least temporarily. If you're eating too little, you're really shooting yourself in the foot when it comes to recovery from exercise and benefiting from it. So you can't get that pretty muscle tone that you're after if you don't have the right kind of calories and enough of them in your diet. But beyond that, it takes adequate protein. There is some proof that adequate protein, even in the presence of fewer calories, can support holding on or maintaining lean muscle mass. So one of the disadvantages of dieting and eating too little is that you will, in that weight loss you have, be losing muscle, which hurts your tone for sure, but your metabolism ultimately will suffer. Definitely not what we're after, right? So you want to make sure that you get the right kind of calories and specifically always get the right kind of protein. So my recommendation is always shoot for between 25 and 30 grams of protein, about 60 to 120 minutes after a challenging workout. So the sweet spot right there, you can guess, is at 90 minutes. We have a blunting effect that happens after a workout, a tough workout, where we don't synthesize protein that we ingest to the benefit of our body and our muscles as well as we would after that 60 minutes has lifted. So if you can wait, great. I know it doesn't always work out, but try to do it 80% of the time and plan for those days when you're doing your strength training to see if you can get it in. Take the smoothie with you if you have to do that. But that's one way to get it in. And the reason I love a smoothie is, number one, yes, it's portable, but also it's an easy way to not just get the protein in, but to add 1 or 2 cups of leafy greens to it, to add some, not a lot, of fruit in the way of berries or citrus fruits that are still low in sugar, but really high in nutrient density. And they also will add some fiber. So you're not just putting in great things for repairing your muscle, but you're also supporting your gut health, keeping yourself full and satisfied. So the last thing you want to do after a great workout is sabotage yourself with snacks that don't really do you justice, or eating the kinds of foods that you're more likely to if you're not satisfied fully at the meal that came before it. So there you have it. That's what it means to reach fatigue with your exercise. And thanks for the question. If you have a question, leave it below the show notes. And that will be at flipping50.com/to-fatigue. And we put these everywhere. Wherever I do a live video, maybe it's Instagram, maybe it's on Facebook that you're watching, and maybe it's on YouTube. Wherever else you follow me or respond to emails from Deborah@flipping50.com. We answer all those questions. And especially if we hear them over and over, if you've asked a juicy one, we will inevitably get to it. And I'd love your rating on iTunes too. And it really helps. So what are you waiting for? Let's start flipping 50 together.